Okay, we've been sent another case today, and I'd like to take a look at this. And the notes on this case: distal root curve of number 5 causing implants 3 and 4 to be distalized. Any thoughts? I had to switch number 3 to an 8 millimeters to avoid bumping the sinus. So they're looking for some help. So this is a good case. I've actually previewed this one a little bit, and there's a few things that excuse me, I'm a little sick. There's a few things that I think that we can discuss. The first thing that I notice here is that because we've been missing these posterior teeth for some time, that this root has, it has a curvature, but it's also starting to tip to the distal. So one thought I have, and it's not that I would actually do this, is consider root uprighting through orthodontics. Certainly that's not going to help with the curvature, but it may help gain a little bit of space there. The other thing that I noticed here in taking a look, actually let me back up for a second. Certainly let's talk about what kind of guide would this be. Obviously we have analog and digital. This would be a digital guide. We'll certainly be able to get CEREC data integrated here. And then that means we have choices of OptiGuide, DigiGuide, and CEREC guide. Since we're missing multiple teeth, that generally takes out CEREC guide. A CEREC guide in office or chair side is designed for one implant. Now certainly you could mill two, but that's not my preference. And then that leaves us OptiGuide and DigiGuide. The DigiGuide is a good guide, but in situations where the bone is tight and I really need absolute precision, then my preference is to choose for an OptiGuide. And as you'll see a little bit later, I would probably choose an OptiGuide in this particular case. So now let's take a look at some of the things I was noticing. So let's go ahead and integrate our CEREC data here. And let me get the teeth on here. Okay, so now we have our virtual wax up, and I want to take a few moments to critique this. And actually, in looking at it from this perspective, it doesn't look that bad. Everything looks good. But in looking at it from the buccal perspective, again, I know I'm a stickler about many things, and this seems to always be one of the big things. Is I have a hard time believing that our gingival profile should go like where our green line is. I'm a stickler about drawing our lines, our gingival margin in the right spot. So in this particular case, I would imagine that our gingival profile should look something more like this. Okay, so this allows you to see better. It allows you to avoid mistakes in terms of buccolingual planning and depth of implant placement. The other thing that I noticed, and this is not something that I would say we have to correct, but certainly it's something to keep in mind here, is let's take a look at, we have our premolar here, and we have our premolar, the contralateral premolar here, but here we have a retained primary tooth. Okay, and here we have a regular premolar. So one of the things I would consider is to make things even and possibly to make the bite better, and this may also help with the distal curvature that we're facing. I might consider actually making this tooth the same size as the paramolar or the primary molar that we have on the other side. Now that's one solution, and then again certainly we'll have our molar size here, and our molar size would then probably go a little bit like that. So it would look something, there instead of where we have it right now. Just some thought there. Doing a retained primary molar may help with our distal curvature that we're seeing there. Now certainly the patient would have to be aware of that. Now I went ahead and put together this plan was submitted without implants. Remember, I do prefer for implants to be in the plan when they're submitted. So here we go. This is site number quote-unquote 4, and you can see that we had to tilt that implant, and it's still unbelievably close as I go through my 360 mode here. Very close there. So I would say that that's too close for comfort. So I would say that I would probably look at, even tilting it some more. Or, here now, if this were a paramolar, this may be actually be in the right spot now in terms of supporting the restoration. Um, the reason I talked about OptiGuide at the beginning of this is to get a standard 4.3 millimeter by 11.5 implant here. Our width is pretty tight here. You can see we have just exactly 1.5 millimeters here on the buckle. I prefer to have the precision and certified accuracy of the OptiGuide there. Certainly we could go to a 3.5 and still it's not like it's 3.5 to 4.3 is only 0.8 of a millimeter, so it's not like it's going to make that big of a difference in this case. And then here is our molar implant, and in this one I was able to get my occlusal plane level, and I would go ahead and do a 10 millimeter implant here. I would I think the sinus will self bump with the end cutting implant here, such as the Nobel Active. So hopefully this has been helpful, and thank you for submitting the case.